Stand on the banks of the Liffey at dawn. Salt wind from the Atlantic whips through the streets. Ancient church bells echo over cobblestones worn smooth by centuries of feet. Pubs older than nations creak open their doors, ready to spill stories into the morning light. This is Dublin, a city that began as a humble river crossing, evolved into a Viking raiding camp, and became the beating heart of Irish identity, resilience, and creativity. It was never meant to be grand. It was never built on marble columns or imperial glory like Rome or London. No, Dublin was forged in the fires of invasion, famine, unyielding resistance, and the unbreakable spirit of song. From the Gaelic bards to the modern balladeers, its people have always turned pain into poetry, hardship into harmony. I once stood in the ruins of the GPO on a quiet morning, imagining the bullets of 1916 ricocheting off its columns, and it hit me. Dublin didn't just survive history, it sang through it, weaving tales that echo across the world. In this video, we pull back for the full sweeping view. From the ancient river ford mentioned by Ptolemy in the 2nd century AD as Eblana, to the Viking stronghold of the 9th century, through 800 years of colonial rule, the devastating famine, bloody revolution, and a modern rebirth as a tech-savvy, culturally vibrant metropolis. This is the story of Dublin, the city that refused to be silenced, that rose from ashes time and again, its voice growing stronger with every verse. Long before Dublin existed as we know it, there was only Áth Cliath, the ford of the hurdles, a simple crossing point over the River Liffey, where Gaelic clans drove cattle across its dark waters. As early as the 2nd century AD, the Greek geographer Ptolemy marked a settlement called Eblana on his maps, hinting at early Celtic habitation in this strategic place where river met sea. Ireland had no Roman roads, no legions marching through its green hills, no grand cities like those rising across the continent. It remained a land of fierce clans, high kings, and isolated monasteries, quietly preserving knowledge through the Dark Ages. Christianity arrived in the 5th century, with saints like Patrick. Remote monasteries became beacons of learning, places like Clonmacnoise and Glendalough, where illuminated manuscripts like the Book of Kells were born. And centuries later, that masterpiece would find a home in Dublin's Trinity College. Then, in 841 AD, everything changed. Norse longships, with their dragon-headed prows, sliced through the Irish Sea like knives through butter. The Vikings built a fortified long fort at a dark tidal pool, Dubh Linn, the Black Pool, where the River Poddle met the Liffey. From high above, we see the natural harbor, perfect for raiding, trading, and launching attacks deep into the island's heart. What began as a pirate camp quickly became one of the most important Viking settlements in Europe, a bustling hub for slaves, silver, amber, and exotic goods from as far as Byzantium. Dublin was born in fire and violence, its streets echoing with the clash of axes and the cries of captives. For nearly 2 centuries, Viking kings ruled. They intermarried with Gaelic lords, shaping a hybrid culture. But in 1014, at the Battle of Clontarf, on Dublin's northern outskirts, Irish High King Brian Boru defeated the Vikings in a bloody clash. It ended their dominance, though it cost him his life. And yet, the city's Norse legacy still lingers, in its street names and in archaeological treasures, unearthed beneath modern pavements. In 1169, Anglo-Norman knights under Richard de Clare, known as Strongbow, landed in Ireland at the invitation of a deposed King of Leinster. 1 year later, King Henry II of England arrived with an army, claiming the island for his crown. Dublin became the bridgehead of English power. Its Viking wooden palisades gave way to stone fortifications. Dublin Castle was erected in 1204 as the seat of English authority, a brooding symbol of conquest that still stands today. Its record tower, a reminder of centuries of rule. The city was walled for protection, enclosing a tight-knit English enclave. English law applied inside the walls. Outside lay the wilds of Gaelic Ireland, where chieftains still held sway. This small area around Dublin became known as the Pale, derived from the Latin palus, meaning stake, a fenced boundary of English control. For the next 700 years, Dublin would be the uneasy heart of colonial rule. English inside the walls, speaking the king's tongue, practicing Protestant faith. Irish outside, clinging to Catholic traditions, to the Gaelic language, forever on the margins. Tension simmered, rebellions flared, like sparks in dry tinder. Under British rule, Dublin lived a strange paradox. In the 18th century, it blossomed into one of Europe's most beautiful Georgian cities. Wide boulevards like O'Connell Street, grand squares such as St. Stephen's Green, and those iconic, colorful doors that still charm visitors today. The Irish Parliament, dominated by the Protestant ascendancy, oversaw a cultural flowering. Trinity College expanded, and in 1742, George Friedrich Handel's Messiah premiered in a Dublin music hall, its Hallelujah chorus echoing through the streets for the very first time. And yet, beneath this elegance lay brutal oppression. The penal laws enacted in the late 17th century stripped Catholics, the vast majority of Irish, of land, education, voting rights, even the ability to own a horse worth more than £5. Catholics were second-class citizens in their own land. From this darkness rose Daniel O'Connell, the Liberator, a Dublin-educated lawyer who mobilized millions through peaceful mass meetings. In 1829, his campaign forced the British Parliament to pass Catholic emancipation, a seismic victory, restoring basic rights and giving hope to the oppressed. O'Connell became Dublin's first Catholic mayor in centuries. His statue now towers over the street that bears his name. But hope was short-lived. In 1845, the Great Famine struck like a biblical plague. Potato blight ravaged crops, and British policies worsened the disaster. 1 million died of starvation and disease. Another million fled across the Atlantic. Dublin became a gateway of despair. Overcrowded tenements swelled with rural refugees. Cholera raged, and emigrant ships departed from its docks, carrying broken dreams to America and beyond. The Famine Memorial on Custom House Quay, with its haunting skeletal figures, stands as a silent reminder of this deep scar on the Irish soul. By the early 20th century, nationalist fervor boiled over. On Easter Monday, 1916, a small group of rebels, led by poet Patrick Pearse and socialist James Connolly, seized the General Post Office and other key buildings. Pearse stood on the steps of the GPO and proclaimed an Irish Republic. Irishmen and Irish women, in the name of God and of the dead generations from which she receives her old tradition of nationhood. Ireland, through us, summons her children to her flag and strikes for her freedom. Women like Countess Constance Markovitz fought alongside the men, shattering gender norms in the struggle. 6 days of fierce fighting left the city center in ruins, shelled by British gunboats on the River Liffey. The leaders were executed, but their blood seeded a revolution. As Yeats would later write, in Easter 1916, a terrible beauty is born. The War of Independence followed from 1919 to 1921. Guerrilla tactics led by Michael Collins, the Big Fellow. He cycled through Dublin's streets, evading British spies, moving through shadows, vanishing into the crowd. Then came Bloody Sunday, 1920. Horror. British forces, the Black and Tans, opened fire on a Gaelic football crowd in Croke Park. 14 innocents killed in retaliation for IRA assassinations. The city recoiled in shock. In 1922, the Irish Civil War tore Dublin apart. Pro-treaty and anti-treaty forces clashed in the streets. The four courts went up in flames, a blaze of artillery ripping through the heart of the capital. But from the ashes, the Irish Free State was born. Dublin was finally the capital of a free nation. Though partitioned from the north, a wound that would linger, setting the stage for full independence in 1949. The mid-20th century brought slow healing. In 1963, U.S. President John F. Kennedy visited Dublin. He addressed Parliament, honored the graves of 1916, and symbolized the deep Irish-American bond forged in famine times. In 1973, Ireland joined the European Union, opening doors to investment, to cultural exchange, to a wider world. Then the late 20th century ignited dramatic change. Low corporate taxes, EU funding, triggered the Celtic Tiger, a roaring economic boom from the 1990s to 2007. Multinationals, Google, Facebook, Apple, Pfizer, established European headquarters in Dublin's Silicon Docks. Derelict warehouses transformed into gleaming tech hubs. The city became young, wealthy, global. Immigrants from across the world added vibrant new layers to its culture. Then, the financial crash hit hard. The property bubble burst. Banks failed. Austerity gripped the nation. Unemployment soared. Ghost estates haunted the suburbs. But Ireland recovered, faster than most, bolstered by education, by innovation, by resilience. Today, Greater Dublin is home to over 2.2 million people, a diverse, creative melting pot where startups thrive alongside ancient pubs. Yet the city wrestles with its success. A brutal housing crisis, skyrocketing rents, homelessness rising, the struggle to preserve its soul amid relentless gentrification. Inequality persists, but so does Dublin's fighting spirit, seen in movements for affordable living, for environmental sustainability. The story is still being written. Dublin was never a city of grand monuments like Paris or pyramids like Cairo. It is a city of voices, raw, resilient, resonant. From Viking traders haggling in medieval markets to starving families whispering prayers during the famine. From rebels shouting defiance in 1916 to poets immortalizing the everyday in verse. James Joyce captured Dublin's essence in Ulysses, turning a single day in 1904 into an epic odyssey. Stately plump Buck Mulligan came from the stairhead. W.B. Yeats, Nobel laureate, wove mythology into modernism from his Thor Ballylee Tower. Samuel Beckett, another Dubliner and Nobel winner, stripped language to its existential bones in Waiting for Godot. Musicians turned pain into anthems. The Dubliners carried folk ballads through generations. U2 rose from post-punk roots to global stardom, with songs like Sunday Bloody Sunday, echoing the city's turbulent past. Sinead O'Connor's raw voice challenged authority. Today, artists like Hozier blend tradition with contemporary fire. Pubs like the Brazen Head, dating to 1198, still host sessions, where fiddles and bodhráns keep the old tunes alive. Dublin was colonized, starved, bombed, and reborn, always singing through the darkness. From the literary revival of the early 20th century to vibrant festivals like Bloomsday, celebrating Joyce's legacy with street theater and public readings. Empires tried to break it, famine tried to empty it, history tried to silence it. Dublin remained, not because it was the strongest, but because it never stopped telling its story. Through words, through music, through an unyielding heart. And the song continues, inviting the world to join the chorus